My name is Maya Sullivan, and this is the story of how my parents killed me with words at Christmas, only to discover 2 months later that they needed the dead. Picture this. December 25th, a dining room packed with 40 relatives, the scent of roasted turkey still hanging in the air. My father stands at the head of the table, looks me straight in the eye, and declares, "In our eyes, you're already dead." My mother nods in agreement. My sister smirks beside them. Why? Because I refused to hand over $50,000 for her third failed business venture. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I simply said, "Understood," and walked out. 2 months later, they showed up at my door, ringing the bell like their lives depended on it. When I finally opened it, I looked at them calmly and said, "The dead cannot come back." Before we dive into what happened next, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with what I'm sharing. I'd also love to know where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. Now, let me take you back to how we got here. The pattern started long before that Christmas dinner. For 10 years, I'd been the invisible daughter, the one whose achievements didn't warrant celebration because, as my parents put it, Maya can handle herself. When I graduated from UC Berkeley with a degree in computer science, my parents arrived 2 hours late to the ceremony. Why? They'd been helping my sister Brittany pick out a dress for her friend's wedding. "You understand, don't you, Maya?" my mother had said on the phone. "Brittany really needed our help." I told myself I understood. When I landed my first engineering job at a tech startup in San Jose, there was no congratulatory dinner. But when Brittany opened her first nail salon 3 years later, funded entirely by our parents, they threw a party for 60 people. Champagne flowed. Dad gave a speech about supporting your children's dreams. I stood in the corner, holding a glass of sparkling cider, wondering why my dreams had never qualified for champagne. "Maya does so well on her own," Mom told Aunt Susan that night. "Brittany needs more encouragement. She's more sensitive." I accepted this logic. I even believed it. Brittany was the baby of the family, 4 years younger, always needing rescue. I was the responsible one, the strong one, the one who didn't require emotional support, because I had my life together. It was tough love, I told myself. They were preparing me to be independent. 5 years into my career, I got promoted to senior engineer. I called to share the news. "That's nice, honey," Mom said. "Listen, can you talk to Brittany? She's having trouble with her salon's bookkeeping." I helped Brittany with her books. I always helped. I didn't know then that this pattern had a name. I'd learn it 2 months after Christmas, sitting in Patricia Morgan's office, hearing the term parentification for the first time. The financial scorecard told its own story. Over 5 years, I'd loaned Brittany $73,000. Not a single payment had been returned, not even a promise to repay. The first nail salon, $28,000. "Just to get started," Brittany had pleaded. "I'll pay you back as soon as I'm profitable." The salon closed after 14 months. She blamed the location, the economy, her business partner, never her own lack of planning. The second salon, $45,000. "I've learned from my mistakes," she'd promised. This time she'd picked a better location, hired an experienced manager. It lasted 10 months before shutting down. She blamed the manager, the landlord, the customers who didn't appreciate quality. Each time my parents had called me. "Family helps family, Maya. You have so much. Can't you spare a little for your sister?" I spared a little, then a little more, then a lot. Meanwhile, when Tom and I moved into our apartment in Sunnyvale, I'd asked if anyone could help us move furniture. "Dad had a bad back," Mom said. "Brittany had plans she couldn't cancel." We hired movers. Tom started asking questions around year 3. "Maya, you're not a bank, and even banks expect repayment." "She's family," I'd said. "So are you," he'd replied. "To us, but we're not treating you like an ATM." The breaking point came 3 months before Christmas. I was reviewing our joint finances with Tom, planning for a house down payment we'd been saving toward for 2 years. That's when I noticed a $3,000 charge on Brittany's Instagram story. A designer handbag, posted the same week she'd texted me, crying about not having enough money for rent. "Your sister is struggling," Mom had said when I'd questioned it. "Can't you be more generous? You have so much." I had so much because I'd earned it, because I'd saved it, because I hadn't spent it on handbags while claiming poverty. But I didn't say that, not yet. 3 weeks before Christmas, my phone buzzed with a text from Brittany. "Hey sis, great news! I found the perfect location for salon number 3. Just need $50K to secure the lease and equipment. Can you help?" $50,000. Casual as asking to borrow a cup of sugar. I stared at the message for a full minute before typing my response. "Brittany, Tom and I are saving for a house. I can't help this time. I'm sorry." Her reply came in seconds. "Wow, just wow. So much for family." Then silence. 2 days later, Mom called. Her voice had that particular edge I'd learned to recognize, disappointment wrapped in passive aggression. "Your sister forwarded me your text message," she said. "I have to say, Maya, I'm surprised at you." "Mom, I've already lent her $73,000. Lent? You're keeping score? That's not how family works." "I'm not keeping score. I'm explaining why I can't or won't." Dad's voice cut in. He'd been listening on speaker. "We need to talk about this, face to face. You're coming to Christmas dinner." It wasn't an invitation, it was a summons. "Of course I'm coming," I said. "But Dad, you need to understand." "We'll discuss your attitude then." He hung up. I sat on the couch, phone still in my hand, feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. Tom found me there 20 minutes later. "What happened?" I told him. "Don't go," he said immediately. "Maya, they're setting you up for something. I can feel it." "They're my parents. I have to go." "No, you don't." But I did. Because despite everything, despite the years of being overlooked and taken for granted, some small part of me still hoped that if I could just explain clearly enough, they'd understand. They'd see me. I actually thought I could reason with them. How naive was that? Christmas morning arrived with that particular California brightness. Clear skies, 65 degrees, everything looking deceptively peaceful. I'd spent the previous evening wrapping gifts with more care than usual. An iPad for Dad, who'd been complaining about his ancient laptop for months. A spa package for Mom, something she'd mentioned wanting back in September. For Brittany, a $500 Target gift card. Practical, useful, impossible to resent. "You're trying too hard," Tom observed, watching me fuss with ribbon. "I'm being thoughtful." "You're being hopeful." He wasn't wrong. I'd rehearsed my explanation in front of the bathroom mirror that morning while getting ready. Calm, factual, reasonable. I've been happy to help in the past, but Tom and I have financial goals of our own. I hope you can understand. Reasonable people would understand that, right? Tom loaded the gifts into the car, then turned to me in the driveway. "Ground rules. If they disrespect you, we leave. No arguments, no negotiations. We just leave. Agreed?" Agreed. "And remember, you don't owe them an explanation about your money. It's yours. You earned it." I nodded, but my hands were shaking slightly as I buckled my seatbelt. During the 20-minute drive to my parents' house in Milpitas, I found myself thinking about the past decade. How many opportunities had I turned down because family needed me? The job offer in Seattle that would have meant a 30% raise, the chance to work remotely from Portugal for 6 months, the promotion that required relocation to Austin. Each time I'd said no. Family came first. But what if family didn't put me first? The thought felt disloyal even as it formed. I pushed it away. "Just be calm," I told myself as we pulled up to the house. "Explain the facts. They'll understand." I'd spent an hour practicing what to say. None of it would matter. Tom put the car in park but didn't turn off the engine. He looked at me, his expression serious. "Last chance to turn around." "Tom, I'm not joking. Maya, you've spent 10 years sacrificing for people who don't appreciate it. You passed on the Seattle job. You didn't take the Portugal opportunity. You stayed here because they made you feel guilty every time you considered leaving. His words hit harder than I expected, because they were true. If we go in there and they disrespect you again, he continued, what are you going to do? Say yes to keep the peace? Hand over another $50,000 you'll never see again? I won't. You have before. I closed my eyes. He was right. I'd been enabling this pattern for years, telling myself it was love, it was family, it was what you did for the people who raised you. But what had it cost me? My career advancement? My financial goals? My peace of mind? And increasingly my marriage. Tom had been patient, supportive, but I could see the frustration building. He was tired of watching me get hurt. If I keep accepting this, I said slowly, I'll lose myself completely. Yes. But they're my parents. I know. He reached over and squeezed my hand. And loving your family doesn't mean accepting abuse. There's a difference. I'd been seeing a therapist for 3 months, Dr. Karen Lee, recommended by a colleague. In our last session, she'd used a term I'd never heard before: enmeshed family systems. It's when boundaries between family members are so blurred that individual identities get lost, she'd explained. One person's needs always override another's, usually the same person. Usually me. Okay, I said to Tom. If they cross a line, we leave. Promise? Promise. I kept thinking, just one more chance, one more conversation. Then they'd see me. Then they'd finally see me. The house was already full when we arrived. Cars lined both sides of the street. I counted at least 15 vehicles. Through the front windows, I could see people moving around, hear the buzz of conversation and laughter. 40+ people. Mom had gone all out this year. Brittany opened the door before we could knock. She was wearing a new dress, designer, probably $300 minimum, and her nails were freshly done, elaborate acrylics with tiny Christmas trees painted on each tip. Oh, she said, looking me up and down. You actually came. Merry Christmas, Brittany. She stepped aside to let us in, her eyes lingering on the gift bags in Tom's hands. Presents? How generous. The sarcasm was thick enough to cut. Inside, the house smelled like ham and cinnamon rolls. Aunt Susan waved from the kitchen. Uncle Mike called out a hello from the living room. Cousins I hadn't seen in months clustered around the TV, watching football. Normal. It all looked so normal. Mom emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Maya, Tom. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. You're here. Not, I'm glad you're here, or Merry Christmas, just acknowledgement of our presence. Merry Christmas, Mom. I held out the spa package. This is for you. She took it without looking at it. How nice. Put the other gifts under the tree. Dad was holding court in the dining room, already seated at the head of the extended table. He glanced up when I entered, gave a curt nod, then returned to his conversation with my uncle about 49ers playoff chances. I set down the iPad near his plate. He didn't acknowledge it. Tom's hand found mine under the table as we took our seats. His grip was firm, anchoring. The dinner started normally enough. Ham was carved, sides were passed, wine was poured. Conversation flowed around sports, weather, someone's new car. I felt like I was sitting on a bomb, waiting for the timer to hit 0. Dinner started normally. The bomb wouldn't drop until dessert. The passive-aggressive comments started during the main course. So, Brittany, Aunt Susan said brightly, I heard you're planning another salon. That's exciting. Well, Brittany said, her voice carrying across the table, I'm trying to, if I can find investors who actually believe in family. The word actually landed like a slap. I kept my eyes on my plate, cutting my ham into smaller and smaller pieces. Some people forget where they came from, Dad said loudly. He wasn't looking at me, but he didn't need to. Everyone knew who he meant. Cousin Jennifer shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Uncle Mike suddenly became very interested in his green beans. Family should support each other, Mom added, her voice sweet as poisoned honey. Always. I agree, Mom, I said quietly. Brittany laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. Do you, though? Actions speak louder than words. Tom's hand tightened on mine under the table. I could feel tension radiating from him, his lawyer instincts kicking in, ready to defend. Maya has been very supportive, he said, his voice level but firm. Dad's fork clattered against his plate. Stay out of this, Tom. This is family business. I am family, Tom said. I married into it. Then act like it. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Conversations at the far end of the table had stopped. Everyone was pretending not to listen while listening intently. I felt every eye on me, felt the weight of 40 people's attention pressing down like a physical force. This wasn't dinner. This was an ambush. I should have known. The oversized gathering, the careful seating arrangement that put me directly across from my parents, Brittany positioned like a prosecutor at my side. They'd planned this. I whispered to Tom, let's just get through this. But we wouldn't get through it. We were only getting started. Dessert was apple pie and vanilla ice cream. Mom served it herself, making a show of giving everyone generous portions. When she reached me, my slice was noticeably smaller. Brittany waited until everyone had their plates. Then she stood up, wine glass in hand, like she was about to make a toast. I want to thank everyone here, she announced, her voice projecting across the room. Real family, people who show up when you need them. Her eyes locked on mine. Unlike some people who think they're too good to help their own sister. The room went silent. Forks froze halfway to mouths. Someone's phone buzzed, absurdly loud in the quiet. I set down my fork carefully. Brittany, this isn't the time or place. Why not? She gestured around the table. Everyone should know the truth about how my sister makes 6 figures but won't help me with a simple business loan. I've helped you before, I said, keeping my voice steady. Twice. And you're keeping score? Classy, Maya. Real classy. Tom started to stand. That's not fair, Brittany. Oh, here comes the knight in shining armor. Brittany's smile was vicious. Does Maya need defending? I thought she was so strong and independent. Brittany, Aunt Susan tried to intervene. No, let her speak, Dad said. Let everyone hear what kind of daughter we raised. My stomach dropped. Brittany leaned forward, her voice rising. She refused to give me $50,000. $50,000, that's nothing to her. But she'd rather watch me fail than help her own blood. Cousin Mike cleared his throat. Maybe we should. 73,000, I said quietly. Brittany blinked. What? I've lent you $73,000 over 5 years. None of it repaid. You're seriously bringing that up now? You brought up money first. I should have walked out then. Should have grabbed Tom's hand and left. But I wanted to defend myself. Biggest mistake. Dad's hand slammed down on the table. Glasses jumped. Someone gasped. Enough! He pushed his chair back and stood, his face red. Your sister needs help. You refuse. End of story. Dad, I've lent her $73,000 over 5 years. Mom cut me off, her voice sharp. Don't you dare throw that in our faces. I'm not throwing anything. I'm stating facts. Facts? Dad's voice boomed. You want facts? Here's a fact. You're selfish. The word hung in the air like smoke. Aunt Susan tried again. Richard, maybe we should discuss this privately. No. Dad pointed at me. She needs to hear this, in front of everyone, so she understands what she's become. My throat was tight. I could feel tears building but refused to let them fall. I have my own financial goals. Tom and I are trying to buy a house. Goals? Mom's laugh was bitter. Your sister is struggling to survive and you're worried about goals? She's struggling because she doesn't plan, I said, my voice shaking now. Because she spends money on designer handbags while claiming she can't pay rent. Brittany's face went white, then red. Wow, just wow. You've been stalking my Instagram? You posted it publicly. That's not the point. Then what is the point? I was standing now too, though I didn't remember rising. What do you want from me? We want you to act like family, Mom shouted. I have acted like family for 10 years and it's never enough. Dad took a step toward me. The room had gone completely silent. Even the football game on TV seemed to have muted itself. That's it, he said, his voice dropping to something cold and final. I've heard enough. He stood perfectly still, and somehow that was more terrifying than the shouting. The room held its breath. What he said next, I'll never forget. Dad's voice was ice. Maya, if you can't help your own family, then you're not part of this family. I felt the words like a physical blow. Dad, that's not fair. In our eyes, you're already dead. Time stopped. 40 people, 40 witnesses. Not one person moved. Mom nodded slowly, deliberately. Dead to us. Brittany's lips curved into a smile. Dramatic, but accurate. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The room tilted sideways and I grabbed the edge of the table to steady myself. Dead to them. Dead. Tom was already standing, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. We're leaving, now! His hand closed around my arm, gentle but firm, pulling me toward the door. I looked around the table. Aunt Susan had tears in her eyes. Cousin Jennifer was staring at her plate. Uncle Mike looked angry but said nothing. The others, neighbors, distant relatives, family friends, some avoided my gaze entirely. Others looked at me with something that might have been pity. No one spoke up. No one said, Richard, that's too far. No one defended me. I reached for my coat with numb fingers. Tom helped me into it, his movements quick and efficient, like he was handling someone in shock. Maybe I was in shock. Maya, Mom said as we reached the door. Not an apology, just my name. I turned back, looked at my father, standing at the head of his table, surrounded by his guests, having just disowned his daughter in front of everyone who mattered. I looked at my mother, who'd agreed with him. I looked at my sister, still smiling. And I heard my own voice, calm and clear and utterly empty. Understood. Then I walked out into the California sunshine, leaving my family behind. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just said one word. And everything changed. Let me pause here for a moment. If you're watching this, and you've ever been made to feel like you're not enough by the people who should love you most, please know you're not alone. This story gets better, or maybe worse depending on your perspective, but I promise there's a resolution. If you're finding value in this, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me, have you ever had to set boundaries with family? I read every single one. Okay, back to what happened next. Because 2 months later, everything changed. The first week after Christmas passed in a strange, muffled silence. No calls, no texts, no apologies. I blocked Brittany on every platform. Instagram, Facebook, even Venmo. Her name disappeared from my phone like she'd never existed. I didn't block my parents. Some small, stubborn part of me still hoped they'd reach out. That they'd realize what they'd done in front of all those people and feel ashamed enough to apologize. My phone stayed silent. Tom found me on the couch 3 days after Christmas, staring at nothing. Maybe talk to someone professional about this? I'd been seeing Dr. Karen Lee for 3 months already, but I booked an emergency session for the following day. Her office was in downtown San Jose, small and warmly lit, with plants in every corner and abstract art on the walls. She listened to the whole story without interrupting, her expression neutral but kind. When I finished, she leaned forward slightly. Maya, have you ever considered that their behavior is a pattern of emotional abuse? The word abuse made me flinch. I don't know if I'd call it that. What would you call it? I didn't have an answer. They've conditioned you to believe your needs don't matter, she continued. that asking for boundaries is selfish. That love means endless sacrifice, but only from you, never from them. I sat with that for a long moment. There's a term for what they did at Christmas, Dr. Lee said gently. It's called public shaming. It's a control tactic. Make you feel small in front of others so you'll comply out of shame. It worked, I whispered. I feel ashamed. Of what? Of not being good enough. Of failing them. Maya. Her voice was firm now. You can love your family and still protect yourself from them. That night, Tom asked a question that would change everything. By the way, didn't your dad list you as healthcare proxy last year? I didn't know it yet, but that question would become crucial. January brought a clarity I hadn't expected. Without the constant weight of family obligation, I threw myself into work. My manager noticed immediately. Maya, you seem different, more focused. I was. For the first time in years, I wasn't mentally calculating how much money I could spare for the next family emergency. I wasn't checking my phone every hour for guilt trip texts. I was just working. Excelling, actually. When they offered me the lead role on a new machine learning project, high visibility, direct report to the VP, I said yes without hesitation. No mental gymnastics about whether my family would need me to skip important meetings. Tom and I started house hunting seriously. We'd been planning to buy for 5 years, always postponing because there was some family crisis that needed my financial attention first. Not anymore. We found a place in Sunnyvale, 3 bedrooms, small backyard, recently renovated kitchen, $850,000. In the Bay Area, it was a steal. We put down earnest money the same week. This is really happening, Tom said, grinning as we left the real estate office. It's really happening. That evening, he brought out a manila folder I'd forgotten about. I think you should review these. Inside were documents from 2022. Estate planning paperwork my parents had insisted I sign when Dad had a health scare. Minor, turned out to be nothing, but it had scared them enough to get their affairs in order. I scanned the pages, my stomach sinking with each line. Healthcare agent. Maya Sullivan. Financial. Power of attorney. Maya Sullivan. Executor of estate. Maya Sullivan. Dad insisted it be you, Tom reminded me. Said you were the responsible one. The irony wasn't lost on me. They could declare me dead, but legally, I still held all the cards. They can't erase you from legal documents just because they're angry, Tom said. I put the papers away, filed them in our home office cabinet. I didn't know I'd need them in 3 weeks. The first crack in their silence came on January 28th. A missed call from an unknown number. Then a text from Aunt Susan. Maya, your dad had a health scare. He's okay now. Just thought you should know. I stared at the message for a full minute before typing back, thank you for telling me. I didn't ask for details, didn't call my parents, didn't rush to their side. Tom looked up from his laptop. You're not going to call them? They said I'm dead. Dead people don't make phone calls. He studied my face, looking for cracks. How do you feel? Honestly? Nothing. I feel nothing. It was true. The panic I would have felt 6 months ago, the immediate need to fix everything, to be there to prove I was a good daughter, was gone. In its place was just distance. 2 days later, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. First contact in 5 weeks. Your father needs some paperwork. Call me. Not how are you? Not we miss you. Just a demand. I didn't reply. An hour later, Aunt Susan called. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to the message. Maya, honey, I know what happened at Christmas was awful, but your dad really needs your signature on some medical forms. You're listed as his healthcare proxy, and the hospital won't proceed without your authorization. Can you please call your mother back? So I'm dead, but they need my signature. Interesting. Tom found me standing in the kitchen, phone in hand, staring at nothing. What happened? I told him. So they need you, he said slowly. After declaring you dead, they need you. Apparently. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. I wasn't lying. I genuinely didn't know. Part of me wanted to help. He was still my father. Part of me wanted to let them figure it out themselves. I didn't think about it, not yet. But the universe had other plans. February started with a voicemail avalanche. Mom called 3 times on February 2nd. I didn't answer. Her voicemails grew increasingly desperate. Maya, we need to talk about your father's medical bills. Call me back. Then Dad called. His voice was gruff, trying to sound authoritative, but landing somewhere closer to pleading. Maya, this is important. Family business. Call me. I deleted both messages. Brittany texted next. I'd blocked her number, but she'd gotten a new one. Seriously? Dad is sick and you're playing games? Grow up. I blocked the new number. Tom was working from home that week. He watched me delete each message with increasing concern. They're escalating. Let them. Maya, I need to tell you something. He pulled up his laptop. I ran a credit check yesterday, just to make sure they haven't tried to open anything in your name. My stomach dropped. And? You're clean, but I found something else. He turned the screen toward me. Your parents listed you as the beneficiary on their life insurance policy. $500,000. I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. They want me dead, but I'm their life insurance beneficiary. The irony. It gets better, Tom said. Or worse, depending on your perspective. I did some digging into their financial situation. Public records, you know. They refinanced their house last year, took out a home equity line of credit. They're leveraged pretty heavily. Why would they do that? Want to guess? I closed my eyes. Brittany's salons. Bingo. They co-signed loans for both businesses. When she defaulted, the debt rolled to them. So they'd bankrupted themselves trying to fund my sister's failures. And now they needed me. The daughter they'd declared dead. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, just distance. Just a vast, echoing distance where love used to be. The Facebook post appeared on February 14th, Valentine's Day. I didn't see it directly. I'd unfriended the whole family. But my friend Rachel, who was still connected to Brittany, sent me a screenshot. Thought you should see this. The post was a photo of a closed storefront, the for lease sign visible in the window. Brittany had written a long caption about toxic business environments and unsupportive landlords, and how she was taking time to regroup and reassess. The salon had been open for 4 months. 4 months, the comments were brutal. Didn't you just open this place? Third time's the charm, or not? Maybe try getting a regular job? Girl, you need to learn basic accounting before opening another business. Within 2 hours, she'd deleted the post. But the internet never forgets. Rachel had screenshots of everything, including Brittany's defensive responses before the deletion. You don't know what I've been through. Easy to judge when you've never taken a risk. At least I'm trying, unlike some people who just coast through life. That last one felt directed at me. Aunt Susan texted me that evening. Your sister is moving back in with your parents. They're stressed. I replied with 2 words. I see. Tom looked over my shoulder at the message. That's it? That's all you're going to say? What else is there to say? He pulled up another browser tab. I may have done more digging. Brittany's got about $30,000 in credit card debt. Collection agencies are calling. She's been ignoring them. She's 28 years old. And moving back home, 3rd failed business. Still think you should have lent her $50,000? I looked at the closed salon in the photo, the empty windows, the broken dreams that had cost my parents their financial security. I think I dodged a $50,000 bullet. Tom kissed the top of my head. I think you dodged a lot more than that. They showed up on Saturday, February 24th at 7:30 in the evening. Tom and I were making dinner, pasta primavera, a bottle of wine open on the counter, music playing softly in the background, normal, peaceful. Then the doorbell rang. We'd installed a Ring camera after buying the house. I pulled up the app on my phone and felt my blood run cold. Dad, Mom, and Brittany stood on our front porch. "Don't open it," Tom said immediately. "I won't." The doorbell rang again, then again, 15 times in rapid succession, the chime echoing through our house like an alarm. Then the pounding started, Dad's fist against the door, heavy and insistent. "Maya, we know you're in there!" Mom's voice, high and desperate. "Please, we need to talk." Brittany, sharp and accusing. "Stop being childish and open the door." I stood in our kitchen, my heart hammering, watching them through the camera app. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. Tom moved to stand between me and the door, his body language protective. The pounding continued. Our neighbor's porch light flicked on. Mrs. Chen from next door peered out her window. "Maya!" Dad's voice was hoarse now. "This is ridiculous! We're your family!" "We just want to talk," Mom added. But they didn't just want to talk, they wanted something from me. They needed something from me. The daughter they declared dead. I pressed the intercom button on the Ring app. My voice came out steady, almost robotic. "I'm not available right now. Please leave." "Maya." I disconnected. They stayed for 20 more minutes, ringing, knocking, calling my name. Mrs. Chen watched from her window the entire time. Finally, they left. Tom found me sitting on the kitchen floor, my back against the cabinets. "You okay?" "They'll be back." "I know. Next time I'll be ready." Monday morning, I called Patricia Morgan's office. Patricia Morgan specialized in elder law, estate planning, healthcare directives, family disputes. Her website had appeared in my Google search at 2 in the morning after I'd given up on sleep. "I need to understand my legal rights," I told her assistant, regarding power of attorney documents. The appointment was set for Wednesday at 3. Tom took the afternoon off to come with me. Patricia's office was in a modern building in downtown San Jose, all glass and steel and expensive art. Her reception area smelled like lavender and leather. Patricia herself was in her late 40s, gray-streaked hair pulled into a neat bun, wearing a navy suit that screamed competence. She shook our hands firmly and gestured us into her office. "Tell me what's going on," she said, pulling out a legal pad. I told her everything. Christmas dinner, the disownment, the sudden need for my signature, the showing up at my house. Tom added details I'd forgotten, the refinancing, Brittany's debts, the life insurance policy. Patricia took notes, her expression neutral and professional. When I finished, she reviewed the POA documents I'd brought. Her reading glasses perched on her nose as she scanned each page. "These are all legally binding," she said finally. "You have significant authority over your parents' medical and financial decisions." "But they disowned me. Doesn't that void these?" "Not unless they formally revoke them in writing, with witnesses and notarization." "Have they done that?" "No." "Then legally, you're still their designated agent." She looked up at me. "What are your options? You can continue serving in these roles, or you can resign. But if you resign, you should do it formally, with documentation." Tom leaned forward. "What if they keep harassing her?" "Document everything. Dates, times, witnesses. If it continues, we can pursue a restraining order." Patricia's gaze was steady and kind. "Maya, you hold more power than you realize. Use it wisely." I left her office with a plan. I just needed one more push to execute it. The call came on Thursday, March 7th at 7:15 in the evening. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Ms. Sullivan? This is Nurse Martinez from Regional Medical Center. Your father, Richard Sullivan, was admitted about an hour ago. We need healthcare proxy authorization." My stomach dropped. "What happened?" "Chest pains, possible cardiac event. We need your consent to proceed with diagnostic procedures and treatment." I stood frozen in our living room, Tom looking up from his laptop with concern. "Ms. Sullivan, are you there?" "Yes, I took a breath. I'll be there in 30 minutes. I hung up and immediately started looking for my keys. Tom was already standing. Are you sure about this? He's still my father. I won't let him suffer because of what he said. Maya, I know. I know what this means. But I can't. My voice cracked. I can't let him die just to prove a point. We drove to the hospital in silence. My hands were shaking. Tom kept glancing over at me, worried, but didn't push me to talk. Regional Medical Center was a sprawling complex, all bright lights and antiseptic smells. We found the cardiac unit on the third floor. Linda and Brittany were already in the waiting room. Linda's eyes were red and swollen. Brittany looked pale, younger somehow, stripped of her usual bravado. They saw me and Linda stood up, her face crumpling. Thank God you came. We didn't know what to do. They said they needed you too. I know what they need, I said quietly. I'm here for the medical decisions, nothing more. Brittany opened her mouth to say something, but I was already walking past them toward the nurse's station. A doctor was waiting, young, tired-looking, holding a tablet. Ms. Sullivan? I'm Dr. Patel. Let's talk about your father. Dr. Patel led me to a small consultation room. Just me, him, and Tom. No Linda, no Brittany. Your father experienced acute chest pain and shortness of breath, he explained, pulling up images on his tablet. EKG shows signs of arterial blockage. We recommend cardiac catheterization as soon as possible. What's the risk level? Moderate. The procedure is routine, but there are always risks with cardiac intervention. We need your authorization to proceed. He slid a clipboard across the table. Consent forms, thick with legal language and medical terminology. I read every word. Tom read over my shoulder. The out-of-pocket cost will be approximately $15,000 after insurance, Dr. Patel added. We'll need payment arrangements before discharge. I signed the forms with a steady hand. We'll also need to discuss long-term care planning, he continued. Lifestyle changes, medication management, follow-up appointments. I nodded, taking notes on my phone. Professional, detached. When we returned to the waiting room, Linda rushed over. What did the doctor say? I authorized the catheterization. He'll be fine. Thank God. She pressed her hand to her chest. Thank God you were here. Brittany was watching from her chair, her expression unreadable. Wait, why are they only talking to you? A nurse passing by overheard. Ms. Sullivan is the designated healthcare proxy. All medical decisions go through her. But we're family, Brittany's voice rose. Legally, she's the decision maker, the nurse said matter-of-factly, then continued down the hall. Linda's face went pale. Richard made you his proxy 2 years ago. I forgot about that. Yes, I said simply. He said I was the responsible one. The irony hung in the air between us, thick and bitter. Brittany stood up, her chair scraping loudly. This is insane. After everything, you still have control? I'm here because it's the right thing to do, I said quietly. Not because we're okay. They needed me, but needing and respecting are two different things. Dad came through the procedure without complications. By Saturday morning, he'd been moved from ICU to a regular room, pale but stable. Linda approached me in the hallway outside his room. She looked exhausted, her hair unwashed, yesterday's makeup smudged under her eyes. Maya, thank you for coming, for signing the forms. We appreciate it. You're welcome. She twisted her hands together. Maybe we can talk? Clear the air? What do you want to talk about? Christmas was heated. Things were said. Maybe we can move past this? I looked at her carefully. You said I was dead to you, in front of 40 people. We were upset. You refused to help Brittany, so you disowned me. Can't we just move past this? Her voice took on that familiar edge, frustration masked as reason. You haven't apologized, she blinked. Well, You haven't either. What exactly should I apologize for? Being financially responsible? For being cold? For not caring about family? I felt something crack inside me, not breaking but settling into place, a foundation hardening. I see. So, in your view, I'm still the problem. Maya, you're being difficult. No, Mom, I'm being clear. You want me to help you. You need me to help you. But you don't respect me. You never have. That's not true. You declared me dead. You meant it. The only reason you're talking to me now is because you need my signature on legal documents. Her face flushed. You're twisting things. Am I? Tom appeared at my elbow. Maya, we should go. Visiting hours are almost over. Linda's eyes were wet now, but I couldn't tell if the tears were genuine or tactical. Maya, please. I'll make sure Dad gets the care he needs, I said. But that's all I'm offering right now. I walked away before she could respond. That conversation told me everything I needed to know. It was time for the next step. Can we just take a second here? Because I need to know, am I crazy for not just forgiving them immediately? Some of you might think I should have just let it go. Others might think I'm being too soft by even showing up at the hospital. I genuinely want to hear your perspective. Drop a comment and let me know, would you have gone to that hospital? And if you're still watching, thank you. Please consider subscribing, because what happens next is exactly why boundaries matter. Let me tell you about the meeting that changed everything. 1 week after Dad's discharge, I sent an email through Patricia Morgan's office. Subject: Mandatory Family Meeting. Estate Planning Updates. Family meeting scheduled for March 15th at 2:00 p.m. at Morgan & Associates Law Office, 450 Park Avenue, San Jose. Attendance mandatory for discussion of estate planning documents and legal responsibilities. Please confirm receipt. Linda called within 10 minutes. Why at a lawyer's office? Because this needs to be formal and documented. Maya, this is extreme. See you on the 15th. I hung up. March 15th arrived gray and drizzly, typical Bay Area spring weather. Tom and I arrived at Patricia's office 15 minutes early. She'd reserved the main conference room, mahogany table, leather chairs, large windows overlooking downtown. Professional, intimidating, perfect. Susan Chen, the notary, was already there, setting up her stamp and seal at the end of the table. My parents and Brittany arrived exactly at 2. They looked uncomfortable in their Sunday best, Dad still moving carefully from the procedure, Mom clutching her purse like a shield. They stopped in the doorway when they saw the setup. Patricia in her suit at the head of the table, Susan with her notary supplies, Tom and me on one side, 3 empty chairs across from us. What is this? Dad asked. Please sit down, Patricia said, her voice professionally neutral. We have several matters to discuss. They sat. Brittany's eyes darted around the room, landing on the notary seal, the legal pads, the formal atmosphere. Thank you all for coming, Patricia began. We're here to discuss legal documents pertaining to Richard and Linda Sullivan's estate planning, and to clarify certain responsibilities and boundaries moving forward. Dad's face reddened. What is this about, Maya? I met his eyes across the table. It's about making sure everyone understands the reality of our situation. I kept my voice level, professional. I'm formally resigning as your healthcare proxy, financial power of attorney, and estate executor. The silence was deafening. Linda's hand flew to her mouth. What? Why? Because on December 25th you declared me dead to you. I'm simply honoring that declaration. Patricia slid 3 sets of documents across the table, one for each of them, one for the notary. These are resignation forms, effective immediately upon signature and notarization. Dad's face went from red to purple. You can't do this! She absolutely can, Patricia said calmly. These appointments are voluntary. Ms. Sullivan has the legal right to resign at any time. You'll need to designate someone else, I said. I suggest Brittany. Brittany's head snapped up. Wait, I don't want that responsibility. I tilted my head slightly. Interesting. Neither did I, but I accepted it because I thought family mattered. This is blackmail, Dad growled. No, Patricia corrected. This is a legal resignation. Blackmail would be if Ms. Sullivan demanded something in exchange for continuing her services. She's demanding nothing. She's simply stepping away. Mom leaned forward, her voice breaking. Maya, please, we need you. You needed me at Christmas too, but that didn't stop you from disowning me in front of 40 people. Patricia pulled out a small recording device. I'm going to play something. This is a legal recording. California is a one-party consent state, and Ms. Sullivan was present for this conversation. She pressed play. My mother's voice, tinny through the speaker. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Then my voice. You haven't apologized. Mom's voice again. Well, you haven't either. The recording stopped. You appreciated my help, I said quietly. But you couldn't apologize for calling me dead. That tells me everything I need to know. Brittany was crying now. Real tears. Not the tactical kind. You're really doing this? Over money? This was never about money. It was about respect. Patricia handed out printed copies of a document I'd prepared with her help. Moving forward, here are Ms. Sullivan's boundaries. I watched them read. Watch their faces change as each point registered. 1. No unannounced visits to my home. 2. No financial requests from anyone in the family. 3. No contact unless there's a genuine written apology acknowledging the specific harm caused at Christmas. This is extreme, Linda's voice cracked. You told me I was dead. I'm just respecting your wishes. Tom added, his voice firm. We've also changed our phone numbers. You have our email address for emergencies only. Brittany looked up, mascara streaking her cheeks. You're really doing this? Cutting us off completely? I'm setting boundaries. There's a difference. Dad's hands were shaking as he held the paper. What if we need you? What if something happens? The question hung in the air. I thought about 10 years of being the responsible one. The emergency calls at midnight, the dropped plans, the sacrificed opportunities, the $73,000, the Seattle job, the Portugal assignment, the countless times I'd put their needs before my own happiness. And I thought about Christmas dinner, the 40 witnesses, the public humiliation, the word dead. Then you'll have to figure it out, I said. Like I've been doing my whole life. Susan Chen stamped each resignation form with her notary seal. The sound was final, official, irreversible. Patricia collected the documents. All parties have copies. This meeting is documented and recorded. Ms. Sullivan's resignation is now legally effective. I stood up. Tom stood with me. I hope you all have a good life, I said. But I won't be part of it unless you can genuinely acknowledge what you did wrong. We walked to the door. Behind me, I heard Mom crying softly. Maya. Dad's voice, desperate now. I turned back one last time. Goodbye. I walked out of that office lighter than I'd felt in years. But the story doesn't end there. The extended family reacted within 48 hours. Aunt Susan called first. Maya, I heard what happened at the lawyer's office. I'm proud of you. I hadn't expected that. You are? What they did at Christmas was unforgivable. I should have said something that night. I'm sorry I didn't. Over the next 2 weeks, 7 relatives reached out. Cousin Mike sent a long text about how he'd witnessed the dinner and felt sick about staying silent. Uncle David called to say he'd been distancing himself from my parents for years because of their toxic behavior. 3 cousins I barely knew sent messages of support. Your parents have always played favorites. Brittany has been enabled her whole life. You did the right thing. But the real fallout happened on Facebook. Mom posted something vague on March 18th. Heartbroken when children forget their parents' sacrifices. Some people only care about themselves. Within an hour, 15 people had commented asking for context. Then someone who'd been at the Christmas dinner, a neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, commented publicly, Linda, maybe don't disown your daughter in front of 40 people if you want her help later. Just a thought. The post got 23 likes. Mom deleted it within 2 hours, but screenshots lived forever. Rachel sent me one with the message, "The truth is getting out." The measurable consequences were piling up. My parents had to hire a professional care manager for Dad's post-surgery recovery, $4,500 a month. Without my financial planning help, they'd refinance their house at a higher interest rate. Brittany's debt collectors were now calling their home phone, since she'd listed their address. They'd lost approximately $15,000 in 2 months through poor financial decisions they would have consulted me about before. Brittany got a job at Target, $16 an hour. Her first real job at 28 years old. Aunt Susan texted me the update. "Your sister is working retail. Your parents are learning what happens when you treat people as disposable." I felt sad for them. But sadness doesn't mean I should set myself on fire to keep them warm. The financial reality hit them hard. Dad's medical bills totaled $47,000 after insurance. Without my help navigating the hospital's financial assistance programs, they paid full price for everything. They had to refinance again, this time with an even higher interest rate because their credit score had dropped. The house they'd owned free and clear 5 years ago was now mortgaged to the hilt. Brittany's debt collectors found creative ways to pressure them. Phone calls at 7 in the morning, certified letters, threats of legal action. She'd listed their address on credit applications, making them targets. They hired a new estate attorney to redo all the documents I'd resigned from, $350 an hour. The initial consultation alone cost them $2,000. Tom showed me the public records. He couldn't help himself. The analyst in him needed to track the data. They've lost about 15 grand in 2 months, maybe more. Mom called my old number once. I'd already changed it, but the voicemail forwarded to email. I listened to her message. "We're struggling. I know you're angry, but we're still your parents. Doesn't that mean anything?" Her voice was small, defeated. I didn't reply. Tom found me staring out our kitchen window that evening. "You okay?" "I'm sad, but I'm not guilty." "Good, you shouldn't be. Shouldn't. They made their choices. I'm just living with mine." Brittany moved out of their house after 6 weeks. "Couldn't handle the stress," Aunt Susan reported. She was couch surfing with friends, still working at Target, still avoiding her debt collectors. The family system that had relied on me as the responsible one, the fixer, the ATM, it was collapsing without me. And I was watching it happen from a safe distance. I felt sad for them. I felt relief for myself. Both things were true. Both things could exist at the same time. While my family's situation deteriorated, my life bloomed. Tom and I closed on the Sunnyvale house in April. 3 bedrooms, a small backyard with a lemon tree, hardwood floors throughout. We spent weekends painting walls and hanging art and choosing furniture together. Our furniture. Our choices. Our home. No emergency calls interrupting us. No guilt about spending money on ourselves. No calculations about how much I could spare for the next family crisis. Just us, building something beautiful. Work exploded in the best way. The machine learning project I was leading caught the attention of our VP. In May, she called me into her office. "Maya, we're creating a new staff engineer position. We want you." Staff engineer, $215,000 a year plus equity. I accepted on the spot. Dr. Lee noticed the change immediately. "You seem lighter, more present." "I am. I didn't realize how much weight I was carrying until I put it down." I reconnected with friends I'd neglected during the years of family drama. Coffee dates that didn't get canceled because of emergencies. Dinner parties where I could actually relax. A weekend trip to Napa with college friends I hadn't seen in 3 years. "Where have you been?" Sarah asked over wine. "Trying to earn love from people who couldn't see my worth? And now? Now I'm done trying." I started painting again, something I'd given up at 16 when Dad said it was a waste of time, and I should focus on practical skills. I bought canvases and oils and spent Sunday mornings in our spare bedroom creating abstract landscapes. I wasn't good at it, but I loved it. Tom found me there one morning, paint in my hair, smiling at a canvas. "I have my wife back," he said softly. I turned to him. "I have myself back." The irony wasn't lost on me. Once I stopped trying to earn their love, I started loving myself. Once I stopped trying to prove my worth to them, I discovered my worth for myself. But there's one more thing you need to know. Because 6 months later, something unexpected happened. The letter arrived on September 12th. Not an email, not a text. A physical letter, handwritten, 2 pages on cream-colored stationery. My mother's handwriting. I recognized it immediately from years of birthday cards and grocery lists left on the kitchen counter. I stood in our driveway holding it, my heart pounding. Tom came out to check the mail and found me frozen. "What is it?" "Letter from my mom." "Do you want to read it?" I did, and I didn't. We went inside. I sat at our kitchen table and opened it with shaking hands. "Dear Maya, I've had 6 months to think about Christmas, about what we said to you in front of everyone, about how we treated you, not just that night, but for years before. What we said was cruel and unforgivable. You are not dead to us. You were never dead to us. We said that in anger, in frustration, in our desperation to control a situation we couldn't control. We took you for granted. We expected you to always be there, no matter how we treated you, because you always had been. You were strong, successful, independent, so we told ourselves you didn't need us the way Brittany did. But we were wrong. Everyone needs to be seen. Everyone needs to be valued. And we failed to see you, failed to value you for far too long. Your father and I have been in counseling since April. We're learning about things we should have learned decades ago. Enmeshment, parentification, conditional love. Terms that describe what we did to you. We don't expect forgiveness. We don't expect you to come back, but we want you to know we're sorry. Truly, deeply sorry. You deserved better. You deserved parents who celebrated your success instead of taking it for granted. You deserved to be loved without conditions. We're sorry we couldn't be those parents. Love, Mom. At the bottom, in my father's handwriting, I was wrong. You were never the problem. I was. Dad. I read it 3 times. Then I cried. Not because I wanted to forgive them immediately, but because I'd waited 32 years to hear those words. I waited 2 weeks before responding, not out of spite, but because I needed to process, to sit with the apology, to decide what I wanted. Dr. Lee helped. An apology is step 1. Rebuilding trust is a marathon, not a sprint. When I finally wrote back, I kept it simple. "Thank you for the apology. I accept it. But rebuilding our relationship will take time and consistent action, not just words. If you're willing, I'd like to try family therapy together. And Brittany needs to apologize separately. Her own words, not yours." They agreed. The first therapy session was in October. Awkward, tense, honest. The therapist, Dr. Williams, didn't pull punches. "This family has decades of patterns to unpack. It won't be quick or easy." "I'm willing to try," I said. "But I won't sacrifice my peace again. If this doesn't work, I walk away with no guilt." Dad nodded slowly. "That's fair." Mom reached across the space between us, not quite touching, but the gesture was there. "We understand." Now, 1 year after that Christmas dinner, here's where we are. I see my parents once a month, supervised lunches at neutral restaurants. We talk about safe topics, weather, food, current events. Sometimes we venture into deeper territory, sometimes we don't. It's not perfect, but it's honest. Brittany still hasn't apologized. We've exchanged maybe 10 words in 12 months. I've made peace with the possibility that we may never have a relationship. And I'm okay with that. Not every relationship can or should be saved. Some people think I was too harsh. Others think I was too soft. I think I was exactly what I needed to be: firm, fair, and free. I learned that loving someone doesn't mean accepting abuse. You can honor your parents and still protect yourself. You can set boundaries and still have compassion. You can walk away and still hope for healing. All of these things can be true at once, so that's my story. The dead came back, but on my terms. Now I want to hear from you. What would you have done differently? Would you have forgiven faster or not at all? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one, and your perspectives help me process this journey. If this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Share it with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to set boundaries, even with family. And here's my question for you. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and self-respect? What did you choose? Let me know below. Thank you for being here. Take care of yourself. You deserve it. 1 year later, I can honestly say I'm at peace. My relationship with my parents isn't perfect, but it's honest. We're rebuilding slowly, with clear boundaries and mutual respect. Brittany and I barely speak, and I've accepted that's okay. Not every relationship can or should be saved. I bought that house in Sunnyvale. I got promoted twice. I started painting again, something I gave up at 16 because my parents said it was impractical. Turns out, I'm pretty good at it. Tom and I are talking about starting a family. And when we do, I'll make sure my kids never feel like they have to earn my love. They'll have it, unconditionally, from day one. To everyone watching who's struggling with family dynamics, your worth isn't determined by people who can't see it. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who make you feel small. The dead can't come back, but the living can choose to truly live. Thank you for listening.